All right, Mitchell Port Unleashed podcast and Christina Jensen. What's
Oh,
going on?
oh. Hi. Not
How are
much.
you?
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Things are going with you, a person of influence, a lot of health, a lot of fitness behind you, all that great stuff. How do you say we become better in loving ourselves the right way in such a negative world that we're living in right now?
Oh, great question. I think the best thing that we can do is understand that that life is a lot of trial and error. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's a huge process of learning. And every day you wake up, it's another opportunity to get better, to make progress in any mistake that you've made, to learn from that and kind of grow from it. And understand that, like, think about it when we were little, when we were little kids, and you would try something. You were so excited to try climbing a tree. You were so excited for mom and dad to not look, or your guardian or whoever to not look at you, so you could jump on the bed and just see what happens, even though they warned you, hey, you could fall. But as many warnings as we have, as much as we read, as much as we learn, as much as we try to prepare, the more that we do and try and taste and experiment and have fun and find what makes us happy, ultimately is going to set us up for success in the long run. So it's a learning process, and just being open to learning and understanding we will make mistakes along the way, but you're not alone. You have literally a world of people and a lot of people out there that any point you could reach out, and someone like me, I'll help you. That's what I'm here for.
I love that you say that. I love that you say that you're a pioneer, a leader, in the fitness community and things like that. I know when we were in what was it, second lockdown? No, third lockdown, right here in Canada, and doing some of your classes, and what drew me to you is the ability of how articulate you are when you speak and you're talking about reference points, a lot with boxing and things like that.
Thank you.
How has boxing shaped you as an individual, and what have you taken from it, the master of sweet science, to put you into the positions that you're in right now?
Well, boxing is a very old skill, right? So if you think about humans, and the earliest form of evolving and fighting for what we need, it's one of the most old. Uh, uh, how do I explain this? It's such an old, ingrained in our gene pool to fight for something. Um, and I'll be honest with you, like, that was a huge turn off to me. I'm not the type of person that I'm like fight in a negative way, get aggressive. And I think there's been a lot in that industry, and specifically that can sometimes be a turn off. Um, the arrogance, the ego. And what really turned me on to boxing myself was how it put my ego in check big time. So it was everything that I thought it was the opposite of that. And I love being proved wrong. So when I started boxing and I saw how much it humbled me and how much it taught me to be reactive in a positive way, because when you make a mistake in your boxing, right, you're in the moment. You only have a certain amount of time. And you have two options in that split second. You can either recover and move on, or you can dwell on your mistake that you made. And be it technical or experience or fundamental, your emotions can get in the way of the decision that you make in that hair or split second. And it taught me so much to move forward and not dwell on my mistakes, which meant I have a hair of a second to decide I am not going to put myself down. I'm not going to feel negative about it. I'm going to learn from the mistake that I just made so I can move forward. Otherwise, I'm done. And the more that I checked out, the more of the negativity and like get to me mentally, emotionally, I was like, wow, I just keep messing up. I just keep making mistakes. And if you think about that in everyday life, I was able it really put me in check in how I could apply that to my everyday life. Like, wow, life is about making a lot of mistakes. I make mistakes every single day, but how do I move forward from that? And it taught me to move forward in a way of, oh, I'm learning a lesson from what I just did, or I'm that experience. Nothing can take experience away from you. It's like the best lessons in life, right? So if I can take that experience, learn from it, and get better from it, that is like an amazing opportunity to get better mentally, emotionally, and then of course physically. So it was like the physical everyday practice of how to carry on in life, if that makes sense. So that's what really drew me into boxing big time.
Is there anybody when it comes to the boxing world that you idolize in such a way that you learn a lot of their trials and tribulations?
Uh,
Boxing's a very long list of legends that are in
oh,
there.
of
I
course.
know there's one particular one. I hope you speak about his name, you know.
You know I will. You know my favorite fighter, my favorite contemporary fighter right now, in more ways than one is Lomachenko, Vasiliy Lomachenko. He is just the to me the epitome of a humble human being. Um, he stays behind the scenes. He's been boxing ever since he was a little kid, and the funny part is he kind of stayed behind the scenes. Like he wasn't about the gloat and the glory and the money and the celebrity and the publicity. He kind of stays behind the scenes, and he only says something when he has to, or even better yet, he lets his talent and his hard work speak for himself, for him, and that's how I've always felt, and it's been what I've tried to carry into the fitness industry, because a lot of how it's kind of turned into Instagram and social media, and the more you kind of publicize yourself, the more you socialize yourself in the social media scene, the more following you have. And it's been really hard for me to do that because I'm not I don't want to have to show off anything about my life. It's about the work that I'm putting in, the people that I'm helping, that I want to speak for my work. Um, and he is a great example of that. And I'm telling you what, watching him go from being just an Olympian out of Ukraine, an Olympian winner, to gold medalist, to now number 2 in the world, to having his belts taken from him by essentially a kid in terms of age wise in boxing, um, to now rising to the ranks, the top of the boxing industry, and fighting for his country in Ukraine. I mean, I just think he is just such an upstanding person. And the only other person I can think of that is very similar, that I absolutely idolize, is Mr. Muhammad Ali. I mean, he was like that on so many levels, socially, publicly, emotionally, religiously. He just lived, breathed every part of life and society. He was such an amazing example. And just think of what he did for the boxing industry. He took it from being something very unattainable, uh, uh, archaic in nature, and he created this style and this technique, and he built himself up as this beautiful man and skill, and had his own style, and he used his public persona to be a good human and spread the word on so many levels in terms of everything going on in the world, especially the things that he was living through at the time, as being this public celebrity black man in the time that he was. So I idolize him. He was such a good example, and I find that Lomachenko is very similar. I love them.
Absolutely. It all goes into self-love. Those guys they're in self-love, they're in self-development and things like that. How would you say you express self-love within yourself to deliver into your content and your audience and things like that?
That's a good question. You're getting me with these. Um, what's interesting is, for me, self love is the hardest part, and I find it empowering for me to empower other people. Um, and what's interesting in the digital space, you don't have the same kind of personal connection. It's in a totally different world, right? So I don't have that one-on-one where I can read someone's body language in the moment. So I've depended on something like social media now to create those relationships. And when I hear and communicate and know that I'm helping someone else, that empowers me to continue to do what I'm doing and know that it's working. It's not the, um, oh, that was a really hard workout. You kicked my, you know what, and um, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. Or, that's nice. That's great. But it's the people that reach out to me that are like, Xtina, I'm going through cancer treatment. You were the last class right before I'm going into my second bout of treatment, and you give me the motivation to keep going in life. That is what matters. And those circumstances just they just fire me up, and it just helps me realize and understand that this is so much greater than me. I'm just a vessel. I'm a voice. I've been blessed with this position, but it's not about me. It's about all of you, and utilizing, like you said. It's funny you said that. I've never thought about it, but using my words in a way that I can hopefully empower, even if it's just one person. If it's one person I can touch that day out of a million to keep going, that is the biggest blessing and gift of all time. And that's the best way that I can show that I'm doing the right thing, and that helps empower me to love myself and take care of myself so that I can keep doing what I'm
Love that you say that. Love that you say that. Xtina, where does
Yes.
that come from?
Oh
How did
my
that
gosh.
name originate? The nickname.
Are you ready
People
for
got to
this?
know. We all got to know.
This is wild. It's kind of funny. I haven't really talked about it much yet, but so my nephew, his name is Jagger. He's 10 now. And when he was just a toddler, I'm telling you, like 3, 4 years old, I think he was just in preschool. He came home one day and he said to his parents, my brother and my sister in law, he says, Mom, I learned at school today that Christmas, you can call Christmas Xmas. And I go, he said, do you think we can call, he couldn't say my name, Christina. It was hard for him to say. He goes, could we call Aunt Chris Aunt Xtina? So it's because of him. He asked his parents if he could call me Aunt X. So I came over to the apartment one day because they live in Jersey now, but they used to live in Brooklyn. And I went over when he was a baby, and he goes, "Can I call you Aunt X?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So the whole X came from him. It was from him, and then his little sister also adopted that. So it is 100% because of my niece and nephew asking me if they could call me X, because he learned in school X is short for Chris in Christmas. I was like, "Oh, that's pretty smart." So to me, it's very personal, but not as probably aggressive or X-rated as people probably would think it would be.
Yeah.
It is very true.
No, definitely. So 2022, we're here, and we think about a lot when it comes down to narratives, and you in the health and fitness space. When we think about our body, how are we supposed to feel in our own body from a trainer perspective, right? I'm a coach. I got the life coach and stuff like that. Been there
Yeah.
with the health and fitness and all that good stuff. But when you're demoing and you're doing your classes and you're showing people the ultimate way to change and feel great about themselves, how would you convert all of that it is that I'm saying, as far as changing the narrative about how we should start feeling about being in our body and things like that?
I think associating everything that you're doing, it either makes you feel good or it makes you feel bad. Every tiny thing, right? So you're just walking down the street, and if something about the way you are walking, so number one, really paying attention to how what you are doing feels, because a lot of times we are so in tune or focused on all the other things going on in our lives that sometimes we forget the simple signals that we're getting, like my foot hurts, my ankles doesn't feel right, or my hips bothering me all of a sudden, or why does this bother me? We kind of have learned to really tune out how we really feel and kind of just keep going. Just keep going. So that's like one way of kind of fighting it, but it's also ignoring the very simple signals. Like, I think one of the more common ones, just in terms of eating, is this, we have become accustomed, a lot of us, to sometimes ignoring the signals of when we're hungry, really hungry, and when we're really thirsty, right? Be it the circumstance, um, the situation that we're in, maybe whatever it is that we need just isn't available. So we are so used to ignoring that it's become a very bad habit. So if I'm in a situation, I can say, hey, put your foot here. Does this feel good or does this not feel good? And if it doesn't feel good, there's a reason why, and let's fix it, because this is something that you can control and we can figure it out. I can't necessarily help you in your career specifically. Like, I can't just help money grow from a tree, or I can't change the circumstance that people were, but I can help you with that physical moment very specifically and make you feel good, or figure out why are you feeling bad, because feeling bad is not mandatory. It's not like You don't have to wake up and feel bad every day. But what do we have to do to feel good? And that's what I like to figure out. And it's very personal for me because I've had so many injuries, and that's what turned me on into being in this position in the first place. Is I'm a living, breathing, walking example of having knee surgery, having a broken back, dislocating my shoulders, herniated, it like goes on and on and on, to a point where I'm like, okay, that doesn't feel good, let's fix it. Let's fix it. Let me help you. And I think that overall can help empower someone and say, wait, I have way more control over my life and how I feel good or how I don't feel good, more so than I really realized. And hopefully that translates into everything, right? Because if you don't feel good physically, like think about it, you don't have energy. It's draining when you don't feel good physically. And we hear, I used to hear my grandparents when they were still alive, or even my parents, I just want energy. Well, pain, physical pain, especially whether it's manifested from our bodies or even from our emotions, whatever it is draining. So, what can we do to curate more energy so that you feel good? It's simple. You either feel good or you don't. Let's fix it.
Well said. Well said. Holy. Well said. Um, you talk about the injuries, right?
Yeah.
When has there ever been a time that you wanted to pack it all up and quit?
I was just talking to my husband about this. No. And I'll tell you what, there've been personal things that have happened, losing loved ones, um, really hard things emotionally or job wise. There have been times where I really questioned myself, but when it came to injuries, it's very interesting. No, it there's never, like, for instance, about a month ago, I fell in, and I'm pretty sure I probably have a little bit of a hairline fracture in my tailbone. I fell really hard, but there was never one second that I was like, I will not come back from this, because I don't know if it's necessarily specifically because I've had so many injuries and I've recovered from them, but I do know I don't give myself the option to not recover. So I do know there is this innate fight in me. And just a little backstory, this is kind of deep, but when my mom was pregnant for me, they almost lost me because she had had an ovarian tumor, the size of a grapefruit inside at the same time that she was pregnant for me. And the obstetrician said, we have to take this out because the tumor's either going to kill you or kill both of you. And chances are you're not going to have a baby when we're done. So my parents were prepared that they were going to lose the baby. She came out of surgery and I made it. So my mom, ever since I was a little kid, said, "You're a fighter." And I really believe with my whole heart, when for some weird reason, before I was even conscious of it, right, I was fighting. And for some weird reason, I could have died then, but why didn't I? So I feel like and she says my mom would say to me, your purpose is much greater than you giving up, because you could have died a long time ago and you didn't. I was like, wow, that's pretty deep and cool, Mom. So I think it's something that's not that I was blessed with, and my purpose is to not give up. And I keep having these trials, and as we all do. Um, but I feel like because of my platform, my purpose is to go through the trials, have the experience, and be an example of, this has happened to me. I made it through it, and so can you. I'm
Said.
bad.
Mhm. No, no, and
You know what I mean?
you speak so well, and it's the word of what we call being resilient. Being resilient in everything that it is that we face through life, through challenges and principle, and putting it into
Right.
action. So I do
It's interesting.
appreciate, yeah, I do appreciate it for sure. Any last words before we get out of here? And where can people check you out?
My biggest takeaway that I want everyone to remember is you have control. You have so much control. You have so much power. You are resilient. You are a fighter. And being a fighter does not have to look negative, right? It doesn't have to look like our biggest fears, like war or oppression or depression or the things that we have lived through in society that have such negative um, repercussions that a lot of times, and I think it's with the blessing of social media, we are seeing now how the fight can be a huge win and a huge positive. And it's just like it that carries into everything we do in life, including your physical, emotional, mental well-being. So if you can get up every day, in my opinion, this is how I feel. If I can get up every day and do something to make myself feel physically good, it turns myself on mentally and emotionally to be able to tackle all of the external. But when I'm not feeling good physically, it's way harder to muster up the strength to be able to turn this on too. So starting there, if you're not sure where to start there and see if that helps. And then if it doesn't help, we'll figure out a different way to help it, to turn you on, but never give up. You have so much power. You were put on this earth for a reason. If you wake up every day, it's an opportunity, it's a blessing. Stay in the fight because it's a good fight and it's always worth it. And you can find me. You can find me I'm on all the social channels, Twitter, Instagram, the TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, all the things. Xtina Jensen, Jensen. And you can also find me on Mirror. You can take classes with me on Mirror and Lululemon. So yeah, you should check me out. Media, I'm there for you all.
I love that you say that. So well spoken, and keep continuing to encourage and
Oh, you are so sweet. You're making my day. Big time. Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a huge blessing and I appreciate it. And cheers to you because you are doing amazing work. And I know you say this to me, but we need more people like you too.